Welcome to the Effective Coaching in Competency-Based Medical Education Workshop. My name is Dr. Maria Giroux, and I'm an obstetrics and gynecology resident at the University of Saskatchewan. Dr. Rashmi Bhargava, Tatiana Frass, and myself designed this workshop for anyone who is interested in teaching learners, whether it is medical students or residents. We would like to share tips from Dr. Bhargava's teaching experience, lessons learned from my elective in UK, my personal teaching experience, and Dr. Carol Dweck's book about the mindset. Dr. Bhargava has a vast teaching experience. She has received numerous awards, including the prestigious 2019 Canadian Association of Medical Education Certificate of Merit Award, which recognizes her commitment and dedication towards medical education. Teaching is one of my biggest passions. My mother worked as a university professor, and her passion for teaching inspired me to start tutoring 16 years ago. I have privately tutored many students and have written multiple educational resources, including a university chemistry textbook. I want to share with you some tips that I have learned from over the years. At the beginning of third year of residency, I had an incredible opportunity to spend 1 month in Cambridge, UK, doing a urogynecology elective at the Addenbrooke's Hospital with Mr. Slack and Mr. Pradhan. During this elective, my goal was not to only learn about urogynecology, but also to improve my teaching skills. I have observed some very effective teaching methods that we will share with you today. We also read Dr. Dweck's book about the mindset and found for it to be very helpful for developing teaching skills. Dr. Dweck is a world-renowned psychologist from Stanford University who has done decades of research and has discovered the groundbreaking idea about the power of the mindset, which we will share with you today. We'll use a flipped classroom approach for this workshop. You will first watch this video, and then we will get together, do activities, and have discussions as a group. This workshop consists of 3 parts. In the first part, we will look at the interaction between the learner, the coach, and the environment. We will examine the power of the mindset and take a close look at the fixed and growth mindsets. We will also look at how to provide effective feedback and how to coach through failure. In the second part, we will learn from Dr. Bhargava's teaching experience and how the medical curriculum is delivered in UK. We will put it all together and learn how to influence learners to change their mindset and unlock their potential. In the third part, we will get together and have group activities and discussions. We will also look at how the growth mindset fits into resilience and how we can encourage resilience in our learners. Let's get started. The medical curriculum in UK uses competency-based training, where learners need to master specific knowledge and skills in order to move on to the next level. At the University of Saskatchewan, we're also implementing Competence by Design curriculum. Do you teach medical students or residents? During this workshop, we would like for you to think about this question. Are outstanding surgeons born or made? When we look at learning, it is important to look at the interaction between the learner, the coach, and the environment. Let's start by taking a look at the learner. Imagine that today is July 1st, and these are 4 brand new first-year obstetrics and gynecology residents. Both Lucy and Eric are natural surgeons. They come from medical schools where they have gained basic obstetrics and gynecology knowledge and had plenty of opportunities to gain experience. On the other hand, Bob and Kate are not natural surgeons. They come from medical schools where they gained little knowledge and unfortunately had minimal experience. These 4 learners are starting residency from different levels. The second difference between these learners is their learning style and the speed at which they learn. It may take longer for some students to grasp the concepts, but given the tools and opportunities, they can get from point A to point B. We also need to consider their potential. Bob and Kate do not stand out from early on, but they have the potential to develop their skills through effort, coaching, and time. All learners have a capacity for lifelong learning. However, the view that learners have of themselves has a profound effect on their lives. Mindset affects learners' mood, self-esteem, and reaction when they face challenges and failure. So, what happens when these learners face challenges? The major difference between these 4 new residents is their mindset. What does that mean? Bob and Lucy have a fixed mindset. Learners with a fixed mindset believe that personality and intelligence are fixed traits. They're concerned about proving their ability, personality, and intelligence. They want to impress their coaches and become concerned about being evaluated. They look for validation and fear disapproval. They can be intolerant of mistakes, criticisms, and setbacks. They can be afraid to seek feedback and become defensive when provided with constructive criticism because they're super sensitive about what others think of them. They're afraid of making mistakes, appearing deficient, and failing. These learners may not ask for help. They may pass up on opportunities for learning because they view challenges as a threat to unmask their flaws and deficiencies. Their confidence can become eroded when they face a challenge because they're afraid of being judged. Every success is important because one evaluation measures how smart they are right now and can measure their future performance. They're concerned about immediate outcome and everything is on the line right now. This creates the urgency for being perfect. They're less in touch with their own strengths and weaknesses and may choose effortless accomplishment over developing a skill through effort and growth. They tend to compare themselves to others and can become more easily intimidated by others. They view success as achieving immediate perfection or being superior at something. When they fail, they're hard on themselves because they see their performance as a reflection of their character. Failure is a direct measure of their competence and self-worth. Instead of growing, they lose confidence and let failure define them. Instead of making a strategy of how to improve, they tend to have a negative internal monologue of judging and labeling themselves as a failure. They may also blame themselves or others. These learners are less likely to bounce back from failure. As a result, they are at a higher risk for anxiety and depression. In contrast, Eric and Kate have a growth mindset. Learners with a growth mindset believe that personality and intelligence can be developed through efforts, strategies, and help from others. They're proactive and focus on personal development because they believe that their true potential is unknown. They take charge on their own learning and motivation and value achievement through effort. They view themselves as a work in progress, not a finished product. It is not about immediate perfection, it is about learning and improving. Sometimes they try something new because they're not good at it. Instead of trying to impress their coaches, they surround themselves by the most able people they can find and learn from them. They seek feedback and ask for help. The growth mindset learners embrace challenge, struggle, criticism, and failure. These are the things that fixed mindset learners find to be threatening. These learners are obsessed with self-education, self-improvement, and invention. They're always curious and looking for a new challenge. They're not afraid to take risks and make mistakes because they view challenge as an opportunity for growth. The bigger the challenge, the more they stretch. This creates a passion for learning and getting things done. They're more in tune with their own strengths and weaknesses. This mindset allows for learners to love what they're doing. They believe that effort is the key to success. Success is about learning, working the hardest to become the best self, and improving. It is not about being better than others. They're happy to see others succeed and become inspired by others' success. They get to be successful as a result of doing what they love. It is their drive and enthusiasm that makes them outstanding. These learners view failure as a wake-up call to work harder. They understand that one test score or performance tells them where they're right now, but it does not reflect their full potential. Failure is due to lack of experience and skill. Abilities can be developed through effort and experience, which takes time and practice. They do not let failure define them. They embrace their dreams and view failure as an opportunity for growth. They practice self-reflection to identify their deficiencies. They take responsibility for their actions. They're determined to stay positive, work harder, and try something new. But they're aware that not everything needs to be or can be changed. It is not about perfection. It is about focusing their energy on the things that will make the most impact and result in growth. They seek help and use feedback to alter their strategies. As they master their challenges, their confidence improves. Even when they reach success, they continue to work really hard. This mindset allows learners to cope with setbacks and convert failure into future success. So which of these four learners do you think will be more challenging to train and why? The reality is that most people have a mixture of both fixed and growth mindsets. People have different mindsets under different circumstances. There's often a trigger that causes people to be temporarily placed into the fixed mindset. A major trigger for learners is the idea of being evaluated or judged. The good news is that mindset can be changed. You have the ability to change how someone thinks about themselves and their life. That is so powerful. Now, let's take a look at you as the coach. Coaching is an art. Your mindset as a coach is equally important as a learner's mindset. There are different ways in which you can look at these four new residents. For anyone who's a Harry Potter fan or has kids who like Harry Potter, let's say that we call the fixed mindset Professor Snape and the growth mindset Professor Dumbledore. Let's take a look.
There will be no foolish wand-waving or silly incantations in this class. As such, I don't expect many of you to appreciate the subtle science and exact art that is potion-making. However, for those select few who possess the predisposition, I can teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses. I can tell you how to bottle fame, brew glory, and even put a stopper in death. Then again, maybe some of you have come to Hogwarts in possession of abilities so formidable that you feel confident enough to not pay attention. Mr. Potter, our new celebrity. Tell me, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? You don't know? Well, let's try again. Where, Mr. Potter, would you look if I asked you to find me a bezoar?
I don't know, sir.
And what is the difference between monkshood and wolfbane?
I don't know, sir.
Pity. Clearly, fame isn't everything, is it, Mr. Potter?
Harry, do you know why Professor Quirrell couldn't bear to have you touch him? It was because of your mother. She sacrificed herself for you, and that kind of act leaves a mark. Oh no, this kind of mark cannot be seen. It lives in your very skin.
What is it?
Love, Harry. Love.
So what do you think about the mindset of these coaches? How would a coach with a fixed mindset see these learners? They see learners' traits as permanent, and they judge learners as competent or incompetent right at the beginning. Professor Snape may label Lucy and Eric as strong residents, and Kate and Bob as weak residents. Talent is everything. You either have it or you don't. The weak will remain weak. But most importantly, a coach with a fixed mindset believes that he or she has no influence on learners' abilities. Someone's early performance tells them everything about the learner's talent and their future. And when learners do improve, they're less likely to take notice and can remain stuck in their initial impression. Fixed mindset coaching can become destructive when they become hard on learners and provide ineffective feedback, or when they start motivating through intimidation. They're intolerant of mistakes and see the outcome of learners' work as their own reflection. This can lead to learners breaking down under pressure. The other issue with these coaches is that they may believe that their own coaching ability is fixed, and they're less likely to analyze motivational strategies that are not working. In contrast, how would a coach with a growth mindset see these residents? Professor Dumbledore understands that different learners have different initial talents, abilities, interests, and personalities. He may see Lucy and Eric as more experienced and Kate and Bob as less experienced residents. Sure, it's nice to have talent, but these coaches believe that learners' true potential is unknown. Growth mindset coaches give equal opportunity to all their learners and tell their learners that they can apply themselves and become better every day. They're not asking for a mistake-free performance. Instead, they're asking for full commitment, effort, and to strive for excellence. They invest time and energy into their learners and notice when they improve. They also believe that their own teaching skills can be improved, analyze whether or not their motivational skills are working, and seek input from their learners. They not only teach learners how to be a good surgeon, but life skills of how to be a good person. Which coach would you rather learn from? This would be our choice. Now let's take a look at how we can provide feedback to learners. The way in which we provide feedback is very important because it can influence learners' mindset. You have the ability to shift the learner into the fixed or growth mindset. It is important to provide feedback in a way that promotes learning. When learners adopt a growth mindset, they change the way they react to challenges and failures. What do you think is an issue with these statements? Sure, these are supportive messages that boost self-esteem. But does this mean that if a learner does not learn the next concept quickly, they're not smart, talented, or gifted? Does this mean that if the learner makes a mistake the next time you operate together, they're not born to be a surgeon? Research has shown that learners with a fixed mindset want to hear positive feedback that boosts their egos. The issue with praising learners' ability or intelligence is that it can put them into the fixed mindset. This can harm their motivation and performance. If a learner is considered to be talented and does not need to work hard to achieve these great results, they have a lot to lose. They develop a fear of exposing their flaws and imperfections. They start to pass up opportunities and challenges that they can potentially learn from. So, how do we provide positive feedback that puts learners into the growth mindset? We need to avoid praise that implies that we're proud of their intelligence and instead praise their effort. Only praise learners if they're actually putting in the work. Do not praise them if they're not learning. Praise them for taking initiative, effort, trying a new strategy, persevering, struggling and learning something new, seeking input from others, being open to feedback, and learning from your feedback and their mistakes. Research has shown that when learners are praised for their effort, 90% of them want to try a new challenging task that they can learn from. You can also praise their progress and tie it to the outcome. Learners in the growth mindset enjoy relationships that challenge them to grow. The bigger the challenge, the more they stretch. Instead of showering learners with praise, show them how much they have grown. Be specific about what they're doing well. Then challenge them to a new experience that will stretch their abilities and help them become a better surgeon. Teach them new ways to make their learning fun and challenging. Provide them with tools needed to achieve the next goal. Eventually, learners will start to find their own ways to make their day more challenging. These would be examples of effective feedback. These would be more examples of effective feedback. Now let's take a look at how to provide negative feedback. What do you think is an issue with these statements? It is very important to provide honest feedback. Withholding constructive criticism prevents growth. However, negative labels can put learners into a fixed mindset and harm achievement. Negative labels can make learners feel inferior. Instead of motivating, learning, and growing, learners start worrying about being judged. Learners' mindset also affects their reaction to your feedback. Learners who are in the fixed mindset may not want to hear your criticism and may view your feedback as a threat, insult, or an attack on their character. They can reject your feedback. They can blame others or label you as being mean or can think that you don't like them. In contrast, learners with a growth mindset welcome change and new ideas. They want to learn from your feedback. When giving feedback, identifying area of weakness is not enough. It is also important to be specific and to provide strategies and tools of how to improve. Let's take a look at an example. The feedback that I have received was that I need to work on my time management. So I analyzed why I was being slow. At the beginning of residency, it was due to lack of knowledge. Once I acquired some basic knowledge, I saw some improvement, but there was more to be done. So I asked medical students, residents, and attending physicians who were on call with me their opinion about what I could do to improve. One of my incredible mentors, Dr. Jabes, gave me several strategies, one of which was to dictate the delivery note in the room immediately after delivery. So I thought, which tools do I need for this? I need a portable phone. I asked Dr. Jabes if residents could have a portable phone and she arranged one for us. My speed has improved further, but it is something that I'm working on and reflecting upon every day. These would be examples of effective constructive criticism. These would be more examples of effective constructive criticism. let's take a look at how we can coach learners through failure. The way that we respond to failure can place learners into either a fixed or growth mindset. We need to not judge learners when they fail, but to encourage reflection and provide support. Here is an example of how we can approach this. In university, I started working for a tutoring company. My first student with the company was in grade 11 and came from a family with fairly high standards. He was an incredible hockey player who spent most of his free time playing hockey. It was 1 month before the end of the semester and his overall mark in math was 17%. The tutoring company had given me the task of having the student pass the entire course in 1 month. This student was in a fixed mindset. He told me that he would write his name down on a test, circle any multiple choice questions, and then hand in the test without even trying. I realized that he didn't try because he was afraid of how others would see him. Trying on a test made him vulnerable and could potentially unmask his deficiencies. He protected himself by not trying. Therefore, I created an atmosphere where there was no such thing as a stupid question, and he could ask me anything he wanted. I then taught him a step-by-step approach of how to solve math problems and provided support and feedback as we worked through the problems together. After working together for 1 week, he received 75% of his first test, then 86% of his next test. By the end of 4th week, he received 94%. Unfortunately, 4 weeks together was not enough, and he failed the course with the overall mark of 47%. What was important here was not his grades or overall failure, but the growth and the change in his mindset from this experience that he could apply in the future. He developed the skills required to become successful. He took the course again in the summer and did very well. This is why I love teaching. I love to see students grow and develop. Now, let's take a look at the environment. Environment has a significant impact on performance. There is a reverse U relationship between stress and performance. Performance increases with stress, but only to a certain point. When the levels of stress become too high, performance drops. A nurturing atmosphere is crucial for learning. How others think of learners can affect their performance. Negative label or judgment can trigger a fixed mindset and make learners feel like they're permanently labeled. They can feel bad about themselves and feel like they don't belong. They're at risk of performing poorly and dropping out. So how do we decrease judgment? We need to be kind to the individuals that pass judgment and praise their efforts when they show improvement in their behavior and when they show compassion towards learners. A supportive environment is where learners feel safe from judgment, know that we're dedicated to collaborating with them on their learning, and we believe in their potential to grow. This encourages for them to develop the growth mindset. It is so important to create an atmosphere of trust. Learners want to know that you care about them. It is a place where they do not feel judged or labeled. They feel more comfortable with themselves, and their focus switches from fear of being judged towards doing their best. When mistakes do occur, the supportive environment helps learners grow. It promotes teamwork, open communication, collaboration, forgiveness, learning, creativity, and innovation. The take-home message is that every learner has an enormous potential that can be unlocked with the growth mindset, effort, coaching, and time. It is important for a coach to adapt the growth mindset because you have the ability to change how someone thinks about themselves and their lives. Provide feedback that shifts learners into a growth mindset and promotes learning. Create a supportive environment that promotes growth. This concludes the first part of the workshop. In the second part of this workshop, we will learn from Dr. Bargava's teaching experience and how the medical curriculum is delivered in UK. We will put it all together and learn how to influence learners to change their mindset and unlock their potential. Let's get started. We can all learn from Dr. Bargava's teaching experience and how the medical curriculum is delivered in UK. One of the first things that I noticed during my elective was the emphasis on teamwork. In the morning, the entire team would meet all the patients undergoing surgery that day to go over the procedure, again see them at the end of the day to explain the procedure performed, and then follow up together the next morning. Plans for each patient were made as a team at the bedside with the input from the entire team. Learners were able to see how patients were counseled and receive immediate feedback. It was an environment of not only providing care but also learning. Clinics were also done as a team. If one physician finished early, he or she would help the other physicians finish their clinic. The entire team was rewarded for their hard work. Through teamwork, growth mindset groups are more likely to have open communication, express their honest opinions, express disagreements, and have a productive discussion. Everyone is a part of the learning process without concern for judgment. It is so important to set up learners for success, not failure. It is very important that you do not lower your expectations. Some teachers lower their standards to give their students a chance to experience success. These students are receiving praise by putting in less effort. On the other hand, raising expectations without providing tools or opportunities of how to reach them is a recipe for disaster. Set your standards high, but help learners achieve them by equipping them with the appropriate tools and giving learners opportunities. Teach learners using all methods: didactic, discussion, simulation, short quizzes. Test their knowledge and fill their knowledge gaps. A teaching method that works for one learner may not work for all learners. Use discussion in small groups and encourage everyone to participate. Know your learners by name and address them individually throughout the teaching session. It makes them own up to their knowledge and motivates them to fill their gaps in knowledge. The gynecologist that I worked with, Mr. Pradhan, asked his learners, "What are your learning objectives for today?" Dr. Rattray also asks our residents the same question when we operate together. One day, I told Mr. Pradhan that I wanted to learn how to interpret urodynamics. He asked me what steps I needed to take to gain this knowledge. We arranged for me to spend time with a nurse practitioner at the urodynamics clinic, observing how urodynamics are performed, and then spend some time in the clinic learning how to interpret urodynamics. It was a valuable learning experience. It is so important to make time to teach. As you're scrubbing in for surgery, you can use this time to pre-brief and create a plan. Who will be doing which portion of the procedure? Does the learner have any questions about the technique? How do we need to adjust the technique for this patient? What intraoperative complications do we need to think about for this patient? How do we manage these complications? In which case do we need to switch sides? And most importantly, does the learner have any questions? During my elective, Mr. Pradhan performed a very challenging self-injectomy with his learners. The patient had severe adhesions from 3 previous cesarean sections and chronic PID. At the end of the procedure, he took me aside and asked, "What did you learn from this?" I said, "I learned how difficult it is to operate with adhesions and strategies to take them down." He then asked me, "If you were operating, what would you do differently about the port placement?" I said, "The port placement made it difficult to operate. I would have started at the palmar's point, took a look around first to assess for presence of adhesions, and then placed accessory ports where there were no adhesions." He said, "I knew that the port placement was not optimal at the start of the procedure, but do you know why I let the learners place them there? Because learners need room to grow. They need to make mistakes and learn from them. It is my responsibility as a trainer to know how much room to give them. If they do not make mistakes, they will not learn." He then sat down with his learners and asked them what they learned from this experience and what they would do differently next time. We all learned from this experience. Another urogynecologist that I worked with, Mr. Slack, ensured that the noise in the operating room was kept to a minimum to allow surgeons to focus on the procedure. According to the 2014 article published in the Journal of American Society of Anesthesiologists, noise can have a negative effect on attention, focus, communication, learning, memory, and performance. Effective communication and performance are crucial for patient safety. It is very important to debrief at the end of the procedure. What did the learner learn from this? What went well? What could have been done differently? How do we manage this patient post-op? How do we counsel this patient? And most importantly, does the learner have any questions? Mr. Slack also taught learners to ask the question, why? Why are we doing this procedure? Why are we using this technique? Is there something else that we can do? He taught his learners to think outside of the box, never stop probing deeper, and asking the question, why? And most importantly, practice, practice, and practice. Do it again and again and again until the skill is mastered. And even when they have mastered the skill, reflect on what could have been done differently or better next time. There's always room for improvement. Growth-minded coaches also focus on improving their own skills. After performing a TLH, Mr. Pradhan asked me how this procedure would have been done differently at our center. I explained to him how we do a TLH here and provided some advice. He encouraged for me to provide more feedback. He said that it's a two-way process. He wanted to teach me and learn from me. It was also remarkable how much emphasis was placed on wellness. Mr. Pradhan would ask his learners, "Are you doing anything for yourself this weekend?" He encouraged for us to have a life outside of work and gave us ideas of what we could do to have fun. He said that wellness increases productivity. One way that I encourage wellness in medical students and residents working with me on labor and birth is by asking them whether they ate. We usually make a stop for coffee when we're on our way to see a consult. And I won't forget the time that Dr. Bragava shared her lunch with me during a very busy call shift. It is quite remarkable how much happier learners are when they're given the opportunity to take care of themselves. Now let's put it all together and look at how the learner, the coach, and the environment interact together. Let's say that our fixed mindset coach, Professor Snape, is working with our fixed mindset resident, Lucy. The triggers have put them into a fixed mindset. It is Lucy's first day on labor and birth. Lucy and Professor Snape are in a delivery together. Professor Snape does not know Lucy's learning goals, and Lucy is too afraid to ask questions because she thinks that Professor Snape will judge her to be incompetent. Professor Snape does not correct Lucy when she does not support the perineum properly. As a result, the delivery is not well controlled, the baby comes flying out, and a 4th-degree tear occurs. Lucy becomes overwhelmed and feels anxious. She thinks of herself as a failure and loses confidence. Professor Snape thinks that the bad outcome is a reflection of himself and feels more stressed out because of the time pressure of patients waiting in triage, and now he needs to repair a major laceration. He tries to give feedback to Lucy, but she acts defensive. No one is happy, and the patient is certainly not happy about being at risk for life-changing complications such as anal incontinence. Lucy is too afraid to ask for help, and she continues to struggle during the next delivery. As a result, she continues to have poor performance and develops poor self-esteem. She becomes labeled as a struggling resident. She's at risk for anxiety and depression. Because learners like this may not ask for help, they may be identified late, at which point they're already struggling. It is very important to be aware and to identify these learners as early as possible. So what can we do with these learners? We need to inspire them to change their mindset. In order for us to work together, we need to be on the same side with our learners. Communication is key. Meet with the learner and have an open discussion. What stressors have been going on in their life? Is there anything else that could have been contributing to this situation? Empathy is crucial. Put yourself into the learner's shoes, look at the situation from their perspective, and try to understand their emotions. Get to the bottom of the issue and offer support. The goal is to bond and make them realize that we're not there to judge or belittle them. We're committed towards their development. We care about them and want to help them grow. The next step is to identify their goals and offer strategies of how to improve. What can you do to help them succeed? The learner may need to develop not only learning strategies but also coping skills. Share how you have overcome these challenges in the past. Work together to develop a concrete, growth-oriented action plan. When will they start working on this? Where will they do it? How will they do it? Set deadlines and plan details. Having a plan increases the chance that we'll follow through with it and increases the chance of success. Notice and praise their efforts. When I was a second-year resident, it was the first year that the Royal College mandated obstetrics and gynecology residents to write the Surgical Foundations exam. It was a challenging two-day exam that covered not only the basics of surgery, but also the basics of surgical disciplines such as neurosurgery, plastic surgery, pediatric surgery, and trauma surgery. Our program director, Dr. Rattray, was an incredible mentor through this process. He reassured me that he would support me no matter what happened. He helped me change my mindset from being afraid of failing the exam to studying really hard. I had a study plan in place and as a result passed the exam. It is so important to have incredible mentors in our lives, and once we overcome these challenges, to become mentors to our junior colleagues. Therefore, I have shared my notes with the junior residents to help support them through this experience. We need to overcome challenges together as a team. Everyone has a potential to change. But what about the learners who are resistant to change? In order for change to occur, the learner must want to change, commit to change, develop a plan, and take actions towards change. It can be a lot of work to bring out the growth mindset. Sit down with them and figure out what they need help with. Offer support rather than judgment. What learning strategy do they not have? Sometimes the issue is not with putting too little effort, but with putting too much effort into the wrong direction. Maybe they're memorizing rather than truly understanding. Maybe they need to go through the steps of the procedure with you and draw out the diagrams. Maybe they need help coping with stress. Try to get to the bottom of the issue, then try something new. This is a method that I used to teach medical students on labor and birth. At the beginning of the shift, students pick what they want to learn about from a list of topics. I tell learners to pick a topic that they don't know much about. I teach them about the growth mindset, and they can ask me anything they want. We talk about the topic throughout the shift as we see patients and do hands-on training. I made presentations for these topics, and when we have time, we sit down, go through the slides, and have discussions. We start from a very basic level to fill any gaps in knowledge, and then move on to a more advanced level. We have also created a new website called OBGYN Academy. It is designed specifically for medical students and residents, and used to share teaching presentations, videos, and workshops. New content and teaching sessions are uploaded every month. Change can be tough, but it is worth it. Let's say that you're a woman who just had a baby and you're struggling with feeding. Are you going to say to your baby, "What's wrong with you? Aren't you supposed to know how to feed?" Or are you going to say to your baby, "I can see that you're hungry. We're both going to learn how to do this together." Instead of judging learners, show sympathy and help them think and learn. And if one strategy does not work, try a different strategy. There has to be a way. Now let's take a look at what could have happened if Professor Snape and Lucy were to adapt the growth mindset. Here, our growth mindset coach, Professor Dumbledore, is now working with our growth mindset resident, Kate. The triggers of the fixed mindset are still there, but they both resist them. Professor Dumbledore asks Kate, "What do you want to learn about today?" Kate says that this is her first day and she wants to learn how to deliver the baby properly. Professor Dumbledore shows Kate how to support the perineum and achieve good control during delivery. He repositions Kate's hands and immediately corrects her as she delivers the baby. He supports her every step of the way and provides immediate feedback. Kate performs a controlled delivery with proper perineal support, and the patient sustains a second-degree laceration. Instead of thinking that she is a failure, she thinks that a second-degree laceration is the most common type of laceration for this patient. She asks herself, "What can I learn from this experience? Were there any other factors that contributed to this tear?" Professor Dumbledore asks Kate, "What did you learn from this? What would you do differently next time?" And because there's time pressure of patients waiting in triage, and Professor Dumbledore knows that Kate is not yet at the level of repairing this laceration, he performs the repair while explaining the steps to Kate. Both Kate and Professor Dumbledore are happy, and the patient has received excellent care. They form a strong relationship. Kate's confidence improves, and the end result is growth. And remember, once you have changed them to the growth mindset, this change needs to be maintained. Be aware of triggers that cause learners to go back to the fixed mindset. Continue to praise their efforts for using strategies that are working. The take-home message is that we have a tremendous responsibility to develop the next generation of surgeons. We can unlock our learners' potential by inspiring our learners to adopt the growth mindset and provide growth-oriented coaching in a supportive atmosphere that promotes learning. This can enable for them to develop into outstanding surgeons who have the skills required to provide exceptional patient care, advance our specialty to the next level, and continue the cycle of coaching future generations of surgeons. This concludes the second part of the workshop. In the third part, we will get together and have discussions as a team. We'd like to thank all of the incredible mentors and learners who have inspired us to create this workshop. Aside from our experiences, we have used Dr. Dweck's book to put together this presentation. We strongly encourage for you to read this book. We'll look forward to having a discussion with you.